Stardust Crusaders. We are finally here to talk about one of the biggest memes in the manga industry. Seriously, at this point, JoJo is basically SpongeBob, where it has become an endless meme farm. So today I'll be giving you my full review for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. It has been a while, so in case you didn't know, I have also reviewed Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency, so you can check those out if you want to know my opinions on the series thus far. But to make a long story short, I liked Phantom Blood, didn't love it, but I thought Battle Tendency was really awesome, and I was super excited to see what Araki was going to do for Part 3. And now I know what he's done with Part 3, so let's talk about it. Stardust Crusaders was written and illustrated by Hirohiko Araki, and it ran from 1989 to 1992 in Weekly Shonen Jump. The story picks up in Japan roughly 50 years after the events of Battle Tendency. This is where we meet our new protagonist, Jotaro Kujo, who is enjoying a nice day locked up in a prison cell for his roughhousing, although he is refusing to leave due to him thinking that he has been possessed by an evil spirit. Now everyone there, including his mother Holly, thinks he is crazy until he picks up a gun and shoots himself in the head, only for the bullet to be stopped. No one can see the cause of this except for his mother. The giant purple dude emerged from his body to stop the bullet. And no one really knows what's going on first until Joseph shows up. That's right, Joseph Joestar, the protagonist of Battle Tendency, is back. He arrives in Japan with his friend Mohammed Avdol. They find Jotaro and explain to him just what the crap is going on. So the scary purple man residing in Jotaro's body is actually what is known as a stand. Stands are manifestations of psychic power. Everyone's stand is different. They all have a range of different abilities. Jotaro learns his stand's name is Star Platinum, who has the ability to basically move at insanely fast speeds in a very, very precise manner. Mohammed Avdol, his stand, can control fire, and Joseph Joestar's stand, he can just do crazy shit with vines and manipulate electronics and do all these weird things, seeing photographs from miles away. It's really weird. But obviously, Joseph and Jotaro never had this ability. So why did it suddenly show up? Well, the man, the myth, the meme himself, Dio Brando, has returned. How did Dio survive? Well, 100 years ago on that ship that one time, after he got decapitated, he was actually able to take over the deceased Jonathan Joestar's body. He was then trapped in a coffin at the bottom of the ocean for 100 years, and was then dug up by some unfortunate sailors. He starts to grow his power, he unlocks a stand, and because his body is of the Joestar bloodline now, the other members of the family have of course been affected by it. Joseph is able to use his powers to receive a photograph of Dio, who they discover is currently residing in Egypt, where he is building his power. No one really knows what his power is, but they know that, once he's at large, shit's going down, so we better go and stop it. So him and Adval come to recruit Jotaro to, go stop Dio, but another problem arises. Jotaro's mother and Joseph's daughter, Holly, has also been affected by Dio's rebirth. She has a stand now too. However, for no other real reason than due to her passive nature, the stand is slowly killing her because she cannot handle it. And the doctors from the Speedwagon Foundation come to the conclusion that she really only has about 50 days left to live. So this gives everyone all the motivation they need as they set off to Egypt to put an end to Dio once and for all. Along the way, they recruit a few other stand users, including Kakyoin, Polnareff, and the Boston Terrier Iggy, who have all been affected some way or other by Dio and want revenge. Aside from Iggy, who is sort of just forced to be there. Their journey to Egypt isn't going to be that easy though, as it's proven pretty early on that air travel, not the best option, especially given Joseph's current track record with planes. And then there's also the fact that Dio is slowly building an army of followers, all stand users, who will all stop at nothing to see that the Stardust Crusaders die horrible deaths in the name of their Lord and Savior Dio. So the entire series is them basically fighting their way to Egypt so they can finally take down Dio, and it all accumulates into one crazy, massive, bizarre adventure. That's right, I think this is the first time that, for me, this series really lives up to its name. While the first two arcs of this story were pretty bizarre, they weren't really anything too crazy when you look at, most manga. So this is when it really starts to feel bizarre and holy shit is it bizarre. And it also of course feels like an adventure. These guys are traveling all across the map, going to several different countries, seeing a whole bunch of crazy stuff. The whole series is a journey from one point to another, and it is, honest to God, absolutely fantastic. This has to be one of the most consistently enjoyable series I have ever read. The story is admittedly very simple. You know, you learn the premise pretty early on, and that's pretty much all there is to it. They're heading to Egypt to take out Dio and save Jotaro's mother, but it does a pretty good job investing you really early on. You're not going to want to put this manga down very much. And from there on, the entire series is basically just a series of short fight after short fight. Seriously, the whole thing is just like mini story arcs of like 3 to 10 chapters where they just run into another stand user who wants to kill them, and they fight with said stand user. The thing that keeps it from getting boring though is how creative and unique each stand user is. You literally have no clue what their power is going to be, because a lot of people may think, oh, stands are just giant dudes who come out of you and punch people. That's not the case. Stands can really be pretty much anything, and we see a wide variety of different stands that I will not dare spoil here. And it just makes me so excited to see what else this series has in store for different stands. It's just such a fresh idea for a manga. It even still feels fresh 25 years later. Now, while I think stands are absolutely phenomenal, it is worth mentioning a small problem I had, and it's more a problem with the series as a whole. And it is, of course, what the fuck happened to Hamon, or the Ripple? This was the power that they used in Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. You know, this was the reason they were able to have all those crazy fights, all this, you know, crazy lightning and bubbles and whatever the fuck going around. Hamon is almost non-existent in Stardust Crusaders. Now, I do think stands are a lot more creative and overall just a better power. It doesn't make all that much sense for the story that Hamon basically just disappears. And if stands could, you know, just do everything Hamon can do, then I wouldn't have that much of a problem. But there are definitely times in the series where I do think Hamon could have come in handy, but it is of course almost completely absent. I'm not going to take off many points for this though. I'm pretty sure Araki just really wanted to ditch Hamon for this much better idea, but it just makes the story a little bit inconsistent. Another small problem I had with the story is that there are, like I said, a lot of fights with different stand users. While most of them are extremely enjoyable and creative, there are a few that I wasn't that big a fan of, that I feel didn't really need to happen. But like I also said, all of these fights are actually pretty short. The series is incredibly well paced, so if you're not really digging the fight, just read a few more chapters and it'll be over with. They'll be on to the next awesome thing. The fights near the end, however, get absolutely phenomenal. They are super brutal, super suspenseful, and I loved them. I maybe would have liked the final fight of the series to go on for a bit longer, but overall I thought they did a wonderful job on it, and I do feel this series has a really good end, even though it may be a little bit brief. So it's time to talk about the characters of Stardust Crusaders, and man, I have to say, what this story lacks in, you know, deep storytelling, it more than makes up for it with its amazing cast of characters. Our new protagonist, Jotaro, is awesome. He's super badass, he's really hilarious. I love how women are always chasing him, and he just doesn't give a shit at all. He thinks they're just being annoying, and he always acts super rude to them. For that matter, he really acts rude to everyone. He's not the nicest of guys, but you always know he means well. The series has really come a long way from Jonathan Joestar to being more of a generic protagonist to these really awesome protagonists with tons of personality. On that note, oh boy, I was excited when I started this series. Why? Well, you see, my favorite element of Phantom Blood was, of course, its villain, Dio, and my favorite element of Battle Tendency was its protagonist, Joseph Joestar. Both of them are back in Stardust Crusaders, and they are ballin'. Despite being much older, Joseph Joestar is still a fantastic character. I loved his relationship with his grandson. They were both great together. You can definitely tell while he is clearly the same Joseph, he's had quite the life, and he is much wiser now than he used to be, although he can still occasionally be quite the idiot. So can Jotaro. There were a few times in the series where I'm like, you guys, just stop. And of course, Dio is once again fantastic as the villain. He doesn't really show up until near the end, but you know, you can always feel his super intimidating presence. And when he finally does show up, it's like the sexiest thing I've ever seen. And of course, you have the rest of the squad, Avdol, Polnareff, and Kakyoin. Oh yeah, and there's also Iggy, who's like a cute little dog character. He's actually pretty great. He's one of my favorite characters. I love him to pieces. I can just, you know, pick him up and squish him. The interesting thing is we really don't know a lot about these characters, but their personalities just make them so likable, and you really start to care for them without knowing almost anything about their pasts. And caring about the characters also makes the fights pretty suspenseful, because unlike most shonen mangaka, Araki actually has a pretty big pair of balls, and as we've seen from past JoJo arcs, he is not afraid to kill people off. And there were surprisingly a lot of great villains too, some really interesting characters. Some are really funny, some are really intimidating, and I love the multiple ways that the Stardust Crusaders had to go about defeating them. Like I said before, all of their stands are completely unique, and you know, reading how the characters would figure out each of their weaknesses was super awesome. So overall, a fantastic cast of characters. Usually I would like a bit more depth. I would like to know a bit more about these characters' past, but I was perfectly satisfied with what we got. Araki just does such a great job writing really awesome characters. So let's talk about the art. Now, I've never been that big a fan of the JoJo art. I was never a huge fan of, you know, the giant muscles and, you know, the somewhat realistic faces. But here, I have to say, I absolutely loved the art style in Stardust Crusaders. It is still, of course, very similar, but it definitely changes a bit throughout the series. Characters seem to be a bit more expressive. This is, of course, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and we really got to see some more out there, creative character designs. Things feel a little bit more cartoony, which in my opinion is for the better. And of course, the series is as delightfully gory as ever. Now, as you know, I don't own the entire series in English. I'm waiting, of course, for the JoJonium releases to finish, so I did have to read the rest of this series online, which is where I discovered my new source of porn, the color scans. Holy shit! Buy the series, guys. I mean, I can't stress that enough. You know, support the original creators, support the manga industry, but holy shit, you also have to check out the full color scans. Reading this series in full color was like seeing color for the first time. Everything just pops. The fight scenes look absolutely incredible. Araki does such a great job choreographing fight scenes. And they're of course very stylized. You have a bunch of crazy sound effects flying all over the place. But just the general art, you know, the background stuff, the character designs, it's all very detailed too. It's very impressive that this was a weekly manga. He is truly a talented artist and one of the best in shonen history. And overall, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite art styles in manga. And there you go. That was my review for Stardust Crusaders. Blew me away. So freaking good. It's not flawless. I did bring up a few issues I had with it. But with that out of the way, it gets my final score of 4.5 JoJo references out of 5. Wow, what an exquisite meme this series has phenomenal memes. I implore you, if you have never checked them out, you know, just Google JoJo memes. Once I finished part 3, I just scavenged the internet, picking all the deliciously dank JoJo memes I could find. Anyway, if you're interested in checking out Stardust Crusaders, the entire series is in print and available from Viz Media. All of these single editions are out, but you can also pick up the JoJonium volumes. I have 2 of the 3 that are out, and there are going to be 10 of them. They also have Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency, but of course only in the JoJonium volumes. There is of course also the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime series. I haven't seen much of it. I've only seen a few of my favorite scenes, but from what I understand, it is a perfectly faithful adaptation and it looks friggin' awesome. So that was all I had to say on Stardust Crusaders. And you're probably wondering, so what comes next? Well, right now I'm more excited than ever to read the rest of JoJo. So here's what I'm going to do. From now on, every 3 full series reviews of mine will be a JoJo review until I am caught up. That means I'll review 2 more series, and then the next review will be for Diamond is Unbreakable, so hopefully you won't have to wait much longer for that. So thank you all so much for watching. You can leave your thoughts in the comments below, and you won't have to wait much longer for my next full series review for Dead Man Wonderland.